What's up, you rat fuck bastards? It's XTR, and I'm teaching you today how to thrive in clutch scenarios. I got this recommendation in Discord yesterday, but fuck you, because it was actually already planned. I mean, it was there. I figured, it's a video people want to see. I'm basically the world's best player when it comes to clutching rounds. So I'm going to tell you all of my secrets, and they're not really secrets. It's pretty fucking simple, and not many players can do it very good. And it really, one of the biggest things it comes down to is the enemy team making mistakes and you capitalizing on them. So what if the enemy players don't make mistakes, you ask? Well, then it comes down to you basically outbraining, pulling rotates, and doing your best to secure the round without getting flustered. Because getting flustered is going to be one of the biggest problems you face when in a clutch situation. I had this problem a lot when I was like 14, 15. I'd get in a clutch, all eyes were on me. I was the star of the show, and I would just freak the fuck out. I mean, obviously, since I was a god gamer, I'd still clutch the rounds. But nonetheless, getting flustered is one of the worst things you can do in that situation. And one thing I've learned to not get flustered is to literally stop giving a shit, for one. And number two, if you start getting flustered, your hands are going to shake, you're going to be sweating, and your brain's going to be going all over the place. You're going to be kind of... Your judgment's going to be clouded, basically. And that's a big problem when you're in a clutch situation, because usually when you're in a clutch situation, the enemies don't really care. They're not going to be as focused as you are in the situation. And that's one of the biggest things you can usually take advantage of in a clutch, because a lot of the times, the players on the enemy team will get complacent when they notice it's just you alive. If you are known to clutch rounds, they might play it a little bit smarter, and you just have to use your brain to get through them. So I'm going to explain exactly what's going through my head in this specific round you see on the screen. Basically, I got 2 kills on A, so I knew that they were probably going to assume that I would plant A. And I would assume that they were going to rotate over, so I took the path of least resistance to get over to C, based on the fact that I believed they were going to rotate towards A through either mid or through my flank. That's what I kind of assumed. I assumed at least one was on the flank, the other was unknown, so I very carefully went through CT in this round. And then I noticed that they eventually, if C was clear, they were going to start rotating from A, because they would assume I was on C's site or leaving towards C's site, and I would catch them off guard, which is where I got that 1 kill on the Cypher. Now I plant the bomb, and I'm moving to a very unexpected position. I'm basically pretty much right behind him if he comes from CT, which I was expecting him to come through. He came through C long, surprisingly, but I still won the round because of it. If I was in a position on site, I probably could have gotten very easily pre-aimed. So I just played it very smart. I kept my head on my shoulders, and I didn't overreact given the situation. I judged my options, and I made a decision based on what was going on in the round and what I had already accomplished. Now, you have full reign over the map in situations like this. They'd have no idea where you are unless you already exposed your position, in which case they're going to have to make a pretty educated guess. Either you are lurking somewhere around on the other bomb site, or you were with the pack and you didn't die, so now you are waiting. Those are the 2 main judgments that enemy players will usually make in rounds like this. It's very important that if you know you exposed your position, you don't want to make any stupid plays given on that information that you gave to them. So be very careful with the information you gave them, and be aware of the information you gave the enemy team. If your position is revealed, it might be smart to maybe take a more aggressive approach towards the round. If you are trapped in a certain spot and the enemy team knows that, they're going to get ready to try and double swing you. So it may be smart to try and somehow wiggle your way out of the spot you are trapped from. Maybe get 1 kill and move to a different part of the site. That is a certain way you could play it. I'm going to talk about bringing things down to 1 versus 1 scenarios, but for now we're going to talk about other stuff. Now, pulling rotates is the next thing we're going to talk about before we talk about bringing things down into a 1 versus 1 scenario, which is kind of the last thing I want to cover. So pulling rotates is smart, yes, but it's very expected. So just be careful when you're doing it. If it is a 1 versus 3 situation, just be very careful about the way you actually decide to pull rotates. If you are making noise towards A and you are the last player alive and you don't do anything, you don't make any noise for 30 seconds, the enemy team is most likely going to expect that you rotated to the other side of the map. Now, there are ways you can actually benefit from this. If it is a 1 versus 3 scenario, you could potentially get at least 2 players on the other site, given a lot of players will expect you to make noise and then just sit there and wait and then try and get onto site. They won't always rotate off of stuff like that. It's just a very common thing for people to make noise and then rotate to the other site. So it's a very common thing. So a lot of players expect it. So a lot of players at the same time, I know this is getting into a lot of like mind game shit. So bear with me here. But I just lost my fucking train of thought. Thanks guys for distracting me. Holy shit. Just be very careful with the presence you give to the enemy team and then what you decide to do on that. And just know that especially in 1 versus 3s where there are more than 3 people, if it was a 1 versus 2, it may be a little bit different, because in a 1 versus 2, a lot of the times the enemy players are going to be playing together. So in a 1 versus 3, a lot of the times if you make noise and then don't make any noise at all, you will probably draw at least one person from one site to the other site, because they will expect you to be on that site instead. Now just be very careful, because a lot of the times if it is a 1 versus 3, one player generally will stick around on the site you were last spotted, just in case you try and pull a fast one on him, you know, pull the fucking rug out from underneath them. He will be there ready to capitalize on it. I see a lot of players that expect just because they made noise and were quiet for 30 seconds that the other team is just gone. They're just gone. And they just walk in, bomb out, and they get shot, and they're like, why the fuck was he still there? Well, god damn it, dude. What do you expect? It's a 1 versus 3 situation, right? They're not all going to rotate just because you didn't make any noise. So you got to be very careful about that. So now we're going to talk about the final thing. And this is probably the most important thing in my opinion. Other than keeping your head on your shoulders and playing smart, this is the most important thing. And that is bringing things down to 1 versus 1s. So what you want to do is try and take duels where you are only facing one opponent at a time, and the other team doesn't really have much of an opportunity to actually capitalize on the fact that you are there. What I mean by that is you want to find an isolated player and pick him off, and slowly but surely start balancing the playing field. This is one of the best ways you can play it if you have the time to work with. It can be very hard, but it is one of the best and most efficient ways to win rounds where you are outnumbered, where you run in, where you go in, and you are basically trying to find the isolated players, pick them off, and relocate to somewhere different where you are not expected, and then get even more kills and balance the rounds out, and balance the round out as much as you possibly can. So that's all I really wanted to cover in this video. A lot of it comes down to you just playing smart, not getting overwhelmed, taking those 1v1s, and understanding what kind of situation you are in and the best course of action you can possibly take. Clutch rounds are very easy to win if you play it right. A lot of the enemy players will get complacent when they notice there's only one player alive. I'm going to talk about 1 versus 1s in a different separate video, maybe even 1 versus 2s, but for now we're just talking about clutching in general. This is a very basic video, but I'm basically just letting you all know that if you keep a cool head, you play it smart, you understand certain things, you will be able to come out on top in these rounds a lot of the times, a lot more than you actually expect. I fucking thrive in clutch situations. I love clutch situations because I know a lot of the times, if I play it right, I can generally win. You know, against all odds, you can win these rounds pretty easily. So that's all I wanted to cover. Thank you guys for, feeding my ego, watching my videos. I'm leaving. Goodbye.
So like, ayy, yeah, I just came from under the sun, and then I'm in love, and I've been frontin' that it's just for the summer, and I've been ditching other bitches, cause you all that I wanted, and I'll be here for you, little baby, let's turn nothing to something, bumping Matt DeMarco, you perfect, I just wanna love you, I'm learning, hey, I've been on the road, and it's showing, but I'm still going to keep holding on to something, I know that you got that 1-2 dance, when I got you in my hand, and I hope you